Welcome to Cube FM. Can you tell me about who you are, what's your role, and where do you work?
Hey, my name is Jean-Marc Fontaine. I'm the Chief Product Officer at Spacelift.
Now, what do you want to share with me today?
So I'd like to talk about Spacelift and more specifically about the new features we just released around Ansible orchestration. So just generally, Spacelift is an infrastructure orchestration platform that manages your entire infrastructure lifecycle, like provisioning, configuration, and governance. And today, what we're really seeing is some improvement to our Ansible support. So now you can more easily deploy pieces of infrastructure with Ansible playbooks. You can automate that from beginning to end. And also, what's very interesting and what sets us apart from other tools is now you have like deep observability into the outcome of those deployments. You can see at a glance if your hosts were successful in their deployments. You can see if specific deployments to multiple hosts were successful. And when they were not, you can easily drill down to identify the root cause, fix it, and redeploy. So that is something that will save tons of times to engineers because Ansible is really difficult to navigate when it comes to failures.
In terms of the problems that Ansible itself solves, can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so I think Ansible and more generally infrastructure as code and configuration as code, which are what Spacelift manages, they try to solve multiple problems like repeatability. But the thing is, they become difficult to use when you have multiple teams, many developers, many teams, and those tend to be silos. So that's where we shine. We help orchestrating the tools, orchestrating the collaboration between the different teams, and making sure that things go smoothly, and you have a comprehensive workflow that encompasses all of your tools.
Now, can you give me some more about the context before this announcement and then after? What's the difference?
In the past, the teams that use infrastructure as code and the teams that use configuration as code, and so for infrastructure as code, I'm thinking OpenTofu, Terraform, AWS CloudFormation. And for configuration, I'm thinking Ansible and others. Those teams tend to be different and to work in isolation. And the thing is, often you want those workflows to be actually the same workflow because typically you will use infrastructure as code to spin up some servers, maybe set up the network, the load balancer, everything they need. But then the server itself, what's inside, is treated as a black box. You need a server, the server is up and running, that's it. And that's when configuration management kicks in. It will actually get inside that black box and configure it and make sure that it's exactly what you need in there, and that will also help you for day-to operations to actually keep it up and running and up to date. What Spacelift does and what we do with this is we help bridge that gap and make sure that you can have a single workflow that does both. We can have dependencies after your servers have been provisioned to be configured by Ansible, for example, and that helps having a comprehensive workflow for all of infrastructure, because too often we see our customers having a team start the process, stop, and then another team picks it up and goes further. But that causes all kinds of issues.
So, for people that may not be aware, is Spacelift open source and part of the CNCF landscape?
And that's a great question. So Spacelift itself is not open source, but we actively use and contribute to open source technologies. We orchestrate well-known open source tools such as Ansible and OpenTofu, and we're actually a founding member of the OpenTofu project. Several of our engineers are working full-time on OpenTofu, and we're proud to be its biggest contributor. And OpenTofu is managed by the Linux Foundation, and it's currently submitted to the CNCF Foundation. So hopefully it will join it soon.
What's Spacelift's business model?
We operate as a closed core business model. So we offer different deployment options, including SaaS, self-hosted, and some hybrid solution that is a mix of both, when we host the backend and you host your workers so that you can deploy in your own environment very easily. And we provide a wide range of plans tailored to different needs, from small teams to mid-sized companies and large enterprise companies. We ensure that we have a plan for every need.
And who are Spacelift's main competitors?
We put them in basically two main categories. Indirectly, we compete with general purpose CI/CD platforms like Jenkins and GitHub Actions. Typically, people start using the tools we orchestrate, OpenTofu, Ansible, from their laptop, and at some point, that feels like something's wrong. They need to orchestrate things, they need to automate things. So they typically go with those platforms because they're already familiar with them from their application deployment processes, and they try to build some pipelines, and it works for a little while. And at first, it's helping them go faster. But then what we hear a lot is people eventually start fighting the tool, and they run into limitations of the tool because most of those tools were not designed with infrastructure in mind. That's typically where people start looking for specialized orchestration platform like ours to make a real impact. And what we see when we compare ourselves to competition is often while they solve the same problem in a similar way, they tend to lack the depth of our features and the richness of our features. And also they tend to support fewer tools. Some of them even support only one tool. And our goal is not to push any specific tools agenda. Our goal is to serve our customers where they are. So whatever tool they need to do their job, we want to help them and provide that support for that tool.
And looking at the other competitors that are out there, what helps Spacelift, differentiate from the others that might be available?
Yeah, so as I was saying, we support a lot of those infrastructure and configuration tools, namely Terraform, OpenTofu, Ansible, TerraGrunt, CloudFormation, Pulumi, and even more flavors of those like AWS CDK, CDKTF, AWS SAM. So quite a few. It's pretty comprehensive. And we also have support for Kubernetes for container orchestration if you need. So that is one big thing. Most of our competitors do not have such a breadth. Actually, none of them have support for so many, and some of them only support one or two. Also, when it comes to support does not mean just support. It depends how much you support, how deeply you support those tools, and we tend to go deeper than them. Yeah, also another thing that we do a lot is trying to help with orchestration. So one example I'll use is you can have different pipelines, deployment pipelines that will use different technologies and still will be connected and will trigger in some cascading fashion to allow you to create some elaborate workflows that span across different technologies. So for example, if I go back to my example before, you could use OpenTofu to spin up servers, and then in turn, it will trigger an Ansible deployment pipeline to actually configure those servers you just created. And then you could still have something else that runs after that, and they can run in parallel. You can have all kinds of models here.
So Jean-Marc, what can we expect from Spacelift in the near future? What are the next steps after this release?
That's a great question. So we want to double down on the recent Ansible release that we had, and we want to further bridge the gap between cloud and on-prem environments. Because as I said earlier, today we see a lot of isolation of people being siloed in those environments. And we believe that companies actually want to be in both, and they have a need for such a tool. And additionally, we will also be making Spacelift even more relevant and user-friendly for enterprise scale operations, and to make sure that we meet the needs of those companies.
Well, Jean-Marc, thank you very much. Excited that the releases come out. Look forward to speaking to you soon. Take care.
Thank you, Brad.